Hi, welcome to day number 18 in our Route 66, and this is a monumental day. This is a big one. You are going to finish the first book in the Bible, the book of Genesis. Now, I know what you might be thinking, because I did. There are 66 books, and I'm just done with the first one. How long is this going to take me? Are we really going to be able to get through the entire Bible in 1 year? The answer is yes. The reason being is because Genesis is a big book. It's got 50 chapters in it. And there are a lot of books in the Bible that have 1, 2, 3 chapters. So there's some very, very short books in the Bible. So don't panic, don't freak out. But these first few are foundational books in the Bible. They're going to set the stage for a lot of the things that happen later. And to me personally, the book of Genesis is a great book to read because it has so many stories in it, some interesting stories, some dynamics that are going on. So hang on, but you're going to finish the book of Genesis today, chapter 48, 49, and 50. So let me give you a little bit of summary of what you're reading today. Genesis chapter 48, Jacob is there in Egypt with all the family, and he blesses Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. He gives the younger son, Ephraim, the greater blessing, similar to what happened with Jacob and Esau. The younger son got the blessing, signifies that sometimes that God has unexpected choices, and that's what Jacob did. He blessed the younger ahead of the older, but regardless, Ephraim and Manasseh, we're going to find out later on in Jewish history, they're going to become one or two of the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. Chapter 49, Jacob blesses all the sons, all 12 sons. And it's interesting, he gives some prophecy of what their family line is going to be like, a little bit of their future. As the family begins to grow, they have children, and the children have children, and it gets bigger and bigger. These are kind of divided into groups. And they're called the 12 tribes, 12 family members, and they're named after these 12 sons of Jacob. And he tells in chapter 49, his sons, don't bury me in Egypt, bury me in Canaan, the promised land, by my father and mother, by my grandma and grandpa. And that's what happens in Genesis chapter 50. Jacob dies. And so it's kind of interesting. It's one of my favorite verses. Joseph reassures his brothers, now that dad's dead, is he going to come after us? No. You meant it for evil. God meant it for good. No, I still forgive you. Forgiveness is not conditional. Forgiveness is forever. It should be, at least. And he says God's going to take care of it. And so they end up taking the body of Jacob back to the promised land and bury him in the promised land. And then when they come back, Joseph asks also to be buried in the promised land. We're going to find out in the book of Exodus as they leave that they take his bones and they're going to bury him in the promised land eventually. But that's 400 years later. So we're going to come to the book of Exodus tomorrow. I'm going to start in that one. But here's some lessons. The first one is God's unexpected plans. Joseph thought what his dad was going to do by the blessing on his two sons, but Jacob didn't. God works in unexpected ways to get his will accomplished. And don't freak out when life doesn't happen the way you planned. God has a plan. Another lesson is the future. We don't know what the future is like, but God does. Jacob gives a blessing to all the brothers and foresees the future that happens to many of them. And I think it's important for us to pass our legacy on to our children and our children's children. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we know that if they follow God, everything's going to be okay. And the lesson throughout Joseph's life that we find out here is forgiveness. We need to forgive, and like the brothers, we need to trust in the forgiveness. So many people, they know they've done wrong, but did God really forgive me? We need to be both givers of forgiveness and recipients of forgiveness. If God said he would forgive you, he forgives you. Accept his forgiveness. To continue to live in guilt means that you don't trust the forgiveness of God. If God has forgiven you of your sin, it's gone. Other people may remember it. You may remember it. God has chosen not to remember that anymore. You are forgiven. Great lessons in this one. Let's tomorrow we're going to start in Exodus, but for now, let's finish up Genesis.